That one was really sweet. Let's start with reading that one. Reason enough. If you feel like a broken record telling your story, just remember the quiet, bubbling hallelujah sound of birds warbling before rising time. Each new day a treasure to announce. Does anyone tell a sparrow to stop babbling? Does anyone say, hey, you told that one already? Does anyone begrudge the melody? I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. You say, it's morning. We survived the darkness once again, come closer. Reason enough for a song. I love it. Oh, I like the repetition. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Oh, I forgot. She's Beth Wood is a songwriter. So, songwriting is related to poetry, so similar, and yet in songwriting, you're more likely to repeat because it sounds nice to us when we repeat. But in poetry, you have to be really mindful about repetition because when we're just saying it out loud, the repetition can get like annoying and grating on our ears. So I've definitely read poems that, especially when they like start a sentence with a I belong because da da da, I belong because da da da, you know, or something like that. That those ones can really get on my nerves, and I'm less likely to like the poem. But this here, it is about the like why is it bad to tell the stories that are meaningful to you even if you're telling them over and over again, and comparing it to the songbird. Sure, we wake up every morning, especially in the springtime, hearing the same birds over and over again, but most of the time we are happy to hear the birds, and why would we not want to hear each other and be happy in, how did she say it? The quiet, bubbling hallelujah sound. Very tasty. So, anyways, it's a poem of I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And that's it. Reason enough. Oh, I like it. I like that these two poems are next to each other. What if I said, and how do I know? They're both about poetry, but in like slightly different ways. And they both made me smile and like, oh, you know, my favorite kind of poems are the ones that like don't make you necessarily like overly think, but give you a I never thought about it that way sort of moment. So, what if I said, what if I said, poetry is everywhere? You might say, but check the glove box. And I would say, exactly. Whispering lilies sprouted from sand, burnt sky falling halfway around the world, both things radiating light at the same time, both things astonishing. I want to say, poetry is everywhere, even on the internet, in the mouth of the tired bus driver. Sit down, children, sit down, please. In the seashell curl of a newborn's ear, at the bottom of this muddy sing-song pond, frogs waking up. Wait right here. Listen. A cloud will say it true, then the rain. I like that a lot. Oh, so many like fun. Burnt sky falling halfway around the world. Things radiating light at the same time. The seashell curl of a newborn's ear. Oh, yeah, just a lot of like really beautiful language, and reminding us that poetry really is everywhere. It's more about your perspective. And then this one, how do I know? How do you know if it will be a poem or a song? Is a question I am asked the most. Answer, It is how they arrive. A song is like a hand on my shoulder. A poem is a needle. Ah, I love it. Okay. This one is a little sad, but good. Ghost stories. My friend wrote a song called Ghosts Are Real, and I beg him to play it. The bittersweet rush of regret, of memory, of nostalgia, his worn flannel voice like salt water washing me clean. He could sing Sandwiches Are Real, and both would be true, but it's not the same. These days, the word ghost has become a verb, an extension of itself meant to describe someone who doesn't take your call anymore, who doesn't want to be found. I've known both kinds, my grief a seesaw on an empty playground. Sorrow doesn't care about parts of speech. I listen for what moves in the dark. I can never get enough. Yeah. Yeah, anyone who's been left, whether through death or just regular partings, you know what it's like. Ghosts are real. Okay, I've come across my first poem that I don't like, and it's because of the repetition thing that I was talking about. This one is titled Poem As. So with the poems, I've had more of them that I've liked overall so far. I'm 80 pages in, so I'd say overall I'm probably going to say I liked this book of poems. But the ones that I have come across that I'm like, that wasn't for me, I've had a difficult time articulating why it wasn't for me, so I didn't stop. But this one, I can clearly say why I didn't like it, and it's repetition and listicle. So I'll read it and we'll see what you think. Poem as. Poem as gate, poem as offering, poem as life raft, poem as rallying cry, poem as surrender, poem as lift, poem as marker, poem as question, poem as change agent, poem as necessary object, poem as whisper, poem as wailing grief, poem as handful of daisies, poem as hope, poem as medicine, poem as song, poem as sanctuary, poem as hammer, poem as soft place to land, poem as deep water, poem as outstretched hand, poem for you. By probably halfway through those poems, the word started to lack meaning. And I think that's why the repetition, there is a number of repetitions of a word for me where it is lyrical and it feels good to say it over and over again. And then about the listicle in general, I often find that it doesn't really tell me anything. So again, I see where she's trying to build on what a poem can be. I was most intrigued by poem as outstretched hand. Love that. I would prefer a whole poem about that. There's all different meanings for outstretched hand, and I feel with a listicle, it just becomes one more word in a series of words, and it loses the meaning. Again, for myself, I'm sure there are lots of people. I mean, even the poetry podcast that I was talking about, Poetry Unbound, Padraig Otuma, he loves listicles. And so sometimes I listen to them and I listen to his analysis and have a better appreciation. And then other times I'm like, yeah, I still don't like them. Okay, so here's another listicle. I like this one a little better. Still not my favorite poem, but I thought it would be a good contrast to the poem as. This one is called Measuring. You could measure a life by birds or by thumbtacks, by teaspoons or by river miles, by children, by memories, by climbing, by piles and piles of things, shiny or otherwise, by paintings, houses, ringing church bells, university degrees, by words written, words read, words spoken, whispered, or sung. Isn't it much easier to have something to do with our hands? Think of other things you could do with them. Think of the not doing you came here with. Think of the way a body softens with age, the way tenderness loosens the light. You could try not measuring at all. So, what I do like about this poem is that it has a turn. I can't remember if that's the correct term, but there's not every poem has it, but there can be a point at which like you've established a pattern. So the first half of the poem up until the question is listing how you can measure life, and it is mostly just a series of words that are all linked by the word by. By appears 10 times in the first half of the story, of the poem, and then you have a twist or a turn, and now we break up the poem and then establish a new pattern. So the break in the poem is, isn't it much easier to have something to do with our hands? And then it goes on to think of other things you could do with them. So you were first measuring. Now, what else could you do with your hands? Not doing. Think of the way a body softens with age, the way tenderness loosens the light. So none of those things actually seem to have to do with the hands, but what it's saying is think about it in a different way. You could try not measuring a life at all. Oh, that was really nice. I enjoyed that. So that was My Name is Another Word by Beth Wood. I mean, as my initial thoughts, I really liked it. It was a very enjoyable book of poetry. And as I said at the beginning, I don't know a whole lot about poetry. I studied it in school. I read it every once in a while, but it's hard for me to get into. I always find myself wondering, how am I supposed to read this? I think there's a lot of gatekeeping, unfortunately, to poetry. Over time, I've started to think that like poetry is for those who inherently are poets, and that it cannot be learned. And I know that that is untrue, but that's part of the gatekeeping. And so I think that translates into the reading of poetry. I feel like there's a right way to read it, that there's a right way to interpret it, and again, not true. So I'm working on breaking down those barriers within myself, and I hope that you also can work to break down any barriers that you might have around reading or writing poetry. So, happy Poetry Month!